Now, sometimes you wonder about these legislatures and you wonder about their mental state. And an article posted today on Infowars.com by our very own Mike Adams, he posted an article that's headline reads, "Psychiatrists giving Judge Dredd authority to strip citizens of their constitutional rights. Under Obama's executive orders, the psychiatrists must now report you to the government as a possible danger to society. That is, if you confide in them that you're angry or, if they deem you to be a threat, you could very well have your Second Amendment rights stripped because now they're basically making psychiatrists snitches." So we're now going to go to a special interview that a brief interview that Jakari Jackson conducted with Mike Adams.
I'm Jakari Jackson here with the Health Ranger Mike Adams. And Mike, I just want to talk to you a few minutes about your latest article here. Headline, "Psychiatrists giving Judge Dredd authority to strip citizens of their constitutional rights." What made you write this article?
Well, our freedoms are under assault from so many angles. They want to take away our economic freedom, with government handouts and increased taxation of business owners and workers. They want to take away our freedom of speech. There's been a lot of censorship online.
Oh, yeah.
But now this is an attack of our freedom of thought. Through Obama's executive orders, he has put psychiatrists, and also Governor Cuomo of New York has done this, they put psychiatrists in charge now of determining whether or not we can have our constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. So if a psychiatrist if you go to visit one and you describe that you're imagining an act of violence against someone and who hasn't at one point or another been angry, right, or thought of something, against the boss or whoever, then that can now be used by the psychiatrist, who is the judge, mm-hmm, Judge Dredd,
right,
to take away your rights and make sure you never own firearms ever again.
Exactly. Now, for our audience, those who aren't familiar, Judge Dredd is a fictional character. In his timeline, the police officers are judge, jury, and if need be, executioner. So that's where Mike got the headline where one person can determine your future as opposed to your due process or lack thereof. Now, you talked about something very important here, that they can strip away your rights just for something as, you're a coach. I want to go out there and I want to kill that team next week. Right. It can be something, right, and people may laugh at that, but that's real. It can be that simple.
Well, they should go back and probably arrest Han Solo for saying that the Wookiee will rip your arms out of its socket. Right. They said that to C-3PO, right? I guess I really am a Star Wars
we all are.
But, that kind of flippant comment can now be used to take away your rights. But you see, the Bill of Rights doesn't say that the Second Amendment only applies to you if you conform to whatever bizarre hocus-pocus psychological police state structure is in place in the future.
Right.
It says the Second Amendment shall not be infringed.
Exactly.
That's it. There's not a lot of leeway in that. Shall not be infringed.
Yes. And this weekend I went out to the Texas Capitol, myself and David Knight, and we had a chance to meet many patriots, people who are just sick of the bureaucracy. Yeah. And for a lot of people, people say, why do you need a 100-round magazine? It's not about a 100-round magazine. It's about a line in the sand. Like Ron Paul was talking about, they're telling you what kind of light bulbs and toilets you can have in your house now. And people said, as long as they don't touch my guns, as long as they don't touch my guns. And now they're touching your guns.
Well, this liberal logic, radical left logic, it doesn't add up. They try to say, well, if you don't need it, Jakari, you shouldn't be allowed to own it.
Right.
But that's very selective. They only apply that to guns. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't need fashion jeans. You don't need jewelry. You don't even need Facebook.
Right.
You wouldn't. If Facebook died tomorrow, you wouldn't die.
Right.
Well, maybe a few people out there, but most people wouldn't. You don't need the internet. You don't need television. What do you actually need? Firearms are actually closer to what you actually need: food, water, shelter, self-defense.
Right.
Firearms are things that you actually need to survive. All these other things that are out there in the culture you don't need. Does that mean we should make them illegal? Of course not. Mm-hmm. If our country was based on only the things that we needed, we'd still, we wouldn't have an advanced society at all.
Exactly.
So the logic doesn't add up. So much of the liberal left, their logic, under scrutiny, it just falls apart. Mm-hmm. For example, that 150 million gun owners are responsible for the actions of one person.
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense. Or things like, guns kill people. Well, I even filmed the video on this. You might have seen it.
I saw
I
that.
tried to get my rifle to shoot, and it just refused to. Even when I stomped on it and yelled at it.
Exactly.
And I waved a magic wand, and it still wouldn't shoot.
That's true.
So I'm convinced that guns actually can't kill people. It's the operators that decide what to do with them.
Right. And we see this because people, they say, I don't want you to have a gun. And the logic in this debate is, we people who believe in the Second Amendment, we're saying, hey, we want you to have the option to go out and purchase a firearm. We're not trying to give you one at birth along with the bubblegum cigars, but these authoritarians, they say, I don't have one in my house, you shouldn't have one in your house either, Mike.
Well, most of these authoritarians live in cities. Most of the leftist thinking comes from living in cities, which a city is really an artificial construct. It's not the real world. Not to say that everybody that lives in a city is somehow bad or anything, but just to say that people need to have a broader view of what is reality. If you live in the country, if you live on a farm or on a ranch, or if you take care of chickens or cattle or goats or horses or whatever, if you don't have a gun, you're putting those animals at risk and your livelihood at risk. To survive on a farm, which is where all the food comes from that is artificially imported into the cities,
they don't think
city
about
people
that.
Like, no, they have no clue. They think their city is the real world. They think Facebook is the real world. They've never seen the real world. They don't know where food comes from. They think, I've actually heard people say that they think that meat is surgically removed from a cow and then the cow is put back into the field. They'll just take a little meat at a time.
Oh my God.
I mean, they have no idea, where food comes from.
Right.
So they're not living in the real world. I mean, literally. We can't really expect them to be rational people.
And these are the people who have, they see police on every corner, or they have armed bodyguards like we've seen, many of these people, many of these celebrities and politicians. They live in gated communities, and they have all these other ways of defense. But they don't think about a farmer out on his ranch who may run across some wolves or, whatever else the situation may be.
Coyotes.
It's not just coyotes, not just to defend yourself from some person. You may have to defend your home against wild animals.
Well, absolutely. There have been times when I've been walking at night. I like to take night hikes on a ranch here in Texas. I will actually take my AR-15 with me on the hike. City people don't understand that. Well, you walk outside, you hear coyotes howling, and one time I saw a giant hog, a pig that must have weighed 300 pounds, cross my path when I was out walking at night, and I'm with my dog. And so my dog one time had a run-in with some of the wild hogs. Wild hogs can be very, very aggressive. I have my rifle for the protection of myself and my dog,
Right.
or if I'm walking with some other animals I'm taking care of. It's a tool. I'm not out there firing it into the air, yeehaw, boom, boom, boom. No. Why would I waste the ammo? I've got it as a tool for safety.
You can't buy ammo anymore.
No kidding. And besides, it's dangerous to shoot them up in the air anyway. You don't know where they're going to land. So it's a tool. And again, people who live in cities, they need to spend a week in a tent in the wilderness, and they would wake up to reality.
Exactly.
Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?